Ron Aprea is a composer, arranger, producer, saxophonist, clarinetist, and flutist. He has performed with Woody Herman, Leigh Elgart, Tito Puente, Frank Foster, Buddy Morrow, Billy May, Charlie Persip, Nata Durley, Lionel Hampton, and Louis Armstrong. While with Hamp's band, some of the highlights were a Ramsey Lewis television special, and a recorded concert at the Smithsonian Institution, where Ron's solos were taped and put into their archives. Ron was the featured soloist and arranger for performances with Nata Durley at the world-famous Apollo Theater, and he also performed at the Paramount Theater with King Curtis Big Band. Ron has played shows for hundreds of stars, including Clint Holmes, Rita Moreno, Robert Merrill, Chita Rivera, Rich Little, and Billy Eckstine. In 1974, Ron recorded with John Lennon and Elton John on the album entitled Walls and Bridges. The all-star horn section included Howard Johnson, Frank Vicari, and Steve Maddeo. He also wrote, arranged, and produced his own album, Ronnie April's Positive Energy Volume 1. Ron had his own TV special on WNYC, and was a featured soloist on Broadway's Song of Singapore. Ron's compositions, arrangements, and production skills can be heard on Angela De Niro's first CD, Just for the Fun of It, as well as her second release, Angela De Niro, Swingin' with Legends, featuring Lionel Hampton, Frank Foster, and Lou Tabaccan. Ron and Angela brought the house down at the Five Towns College Jazz Concert in 1998 and 1999. Ron was featured with the Kenny Barron Trio at the 1998 Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival, and was part of the all-star cast, which included Frank Foster, Frank Wess, Bill Watrous, John Faddis, Al Gray, Ray Brown, Marion McPartland, Abby Lincoln, and Diana Krall. In addition to a full performance schedule, Ron spends much time composing and arranging, both for an instrumental big band album, and for vocalist Angela De Niro. During the summer of '98, Ron performed extensively with both his big band and quintet, and received a standing ovation from thousands at the Planting Fields Arboretum in New York, where he and Angela De Niro again appeared as guest artists in concert with Lionel Hampton's big band. Ron's solos, and his impeccable note matching with Angela at finger-breaking tempos during the scatting segments, wowed their audience. In 1998, Ron's production of Angela De Niro's Swingin' with Legends album, featuring Lionel Hampton, Frank Foster, Lou Tabaccan, and Ron's all-star 16-piece big band, received 8 Grammy nomination entries, 3 of which were, Producer of the Year, and Best Instrumental Arrangement accompanying a vocalist for Angela De Niro's Avalon and The Song Is You. On that historic album, Angela De Niro became the first and only singer to record Midnight Sun with its composer, Lionel Hampton. The national program, called Jazz Discovery, showcased jazz artists in competition, and was judged by a panel of 3, which included jazz legend Chick Corea. Later that year, Ron completed an arranging assignment for vocalist Alex Donner, featuring 9 of Ron's arrangements. Ron Co hosted a weekly jazz radio show on WSHR, 91.9 FM, New York, with his wife, vocalist Angela De Niro. Their show, Rush Hour Rendezvous, ran successfully for 2 years, and featured great jazz and musical conversation. Ron and Angela De Niro made a cameo appearance on legendary jazz vocalist Mark Murphy's album, entitled Links, released in September 2001 on the High Note label. In August 2001, Ron performed in an all-star band for a Charlie Parker birthday tribute in Harlem, New York. The rhythm section featured Danny Mixon on piano, Bob Cunningham on bass, and Andre Strabere on drums. One of Ron's compositions, For Phil, is dedicated to Phil Woods, who has been a major source of inspiration to Ron since the mid-60s. De Niro exudes the warmth and love Ron has for the legendary alto saxophonist. Angela and Ron were joined on this album by a smoke and rhythm section consisting of Cecilia Coleman on piano, Tim Gibbons on bass, and Jim Young on drums. Trumpeter Don Sickler and trombonist Scott Whitfield join Ron's alto sax and flute, and strings rounded out 2 of the cuts on the album, featuring Matt Aprea on violin. On June 5, 2013, Ron released his own album entitled Ron Aprea Sextet Remembering Blakey, Ron's tribute to Art Blakey and his jazz messengers. Ron's front line on this album is Joe Magnarelli TRPT, Jerry Weldon tenor, and Ron on alto. The rhythm section is Cecilia Coleman piano, Tim Givens bass, and Vince Cherico drums. Ron has two of his own originals, Sophia, written for his granddaughter, and For Pete's Sake, written for the late bassist and close friend Pete Chivoli. Although none of the 12 cuts are tunes that Blakey recorded, Ron confesses that in writing for this project Blakey's jazz messengers kept popping into his head. Future plans will include Ron's son Matt, who is a violinist, and his wife, jazz vocalist Angela De Niro.